It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about another dashboard called Dashy. So if you've seen my previous videos on Homer and Heimdall, then you know that these dashboards are super useful. Now, yes, you could absolutely use your bookmarks bar up here just to bookmark all of your homelab sites, but the dashboards have a little bit more in place. One, they give you a nice overview right in front of you of everything that you're running. Two, a lot of times they're not just links and shortcuts, but they're also statistical information or some kind of information being pulled from an API that you can see. Uptime information is super useful a lot of times too, and a lot of these dashboards support that as well. The thing I love about Dashy is it's clean, it's got a lot of theming around it and options for you to configure, but it also has some pretty cool layouts. So I wanted to kind of show it to you guys today, and you can also do everything through the user interface. You don't have to use a config file except for when we're first setting everything up, and it's just a starter template that we're going to see. Once you've done that, everything can go through the UI. So we'll get into the install of Dashy right after this. I want to say thank you to all of my patrons over at Patreon and my subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much for all of your support. I love doing this channel. I love making this media and this content for you. I hope you enjoy it as well. I do post all of the videos now over at Patreon after one of my patrons made the suggestion, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me before that. But if you're interested in seeing them through Patreon and getting a notification through Patreon instead of through YouTube, or hoping that YouTube's algorithms happens to show it to you, jump over and become a supporter on Patreon, patreon.com. I've got the links in the description and the show notes. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. So we're going to install Dashy today with Docker. And I love Docker, you guys know that, but Docker just makes it so easy to run so many different things, and I had to work a little bit to get Dashy going the way that I wanted to, and I had to learn a little bit of new stuff about Docker and how it handles volumes, but that's good for me, and I'm going to tell you guys about what I learned as well. So first off, here's Dashy, and you can go to dashy.to to see their main homepage, but here they've got some really great stuff. So definitely get over here and check it out if you have questions or if you have things that I don't cover, because this is going to be an overview of how to install it and an overview of the user interface and how to set things up initially, but you might want to do things that are more advanced or try and see if there's other things that you can do with it that I'm not showing you. So definitely get over here and see what's going on. But they've got a get started section, live demo, source code, and of course documentation, which is the most important thing. And if you check out the way they've laid out their documentation, I think it's super useful, makes it a lot easier to find things. And then of course there's community documentation as well. So if you want to do some development, if you want to have a showcase, if you want to do some dev guides, if you want to do credits, anything like that, you can jump over here and kind of find out what you need and what's going on the community side of things. But then they also have feature documentation and miscellaneous documentation besides running Dashy itself. If you jump over here to their GitHub page, they also have a lot of really great information, and it's super useful, so I definitely recommend that you come over here and check this out. I'll have all these links in the show notes and in the description for you guys so that you'll be able to get to them quickly, but you can kind of see what you can do with Dashy right here, which is pretty great. They've got some little GIFs that run. That's pretty awesome. Alright, we're going to get into the installation of Dashy, and I'll kind of walk you through how I'm doing it and how I'm setting things up, and then you guys can determine if that's right for you or if you want to try a different way, but I'll tell you about what I learned along the way. So first thing, I'm going to cd into my Docker folder for organization purposes. I want to make sure everything's inside my Docker folder so you can see here what all I've got running. And then I'm going to create a new folder and a couple of subfolders. So I'm going to do make directory -p, and we're going to call this Dashy. And then we're going to do slash and an open curly brace, and we're going to create a second folder called public and another one called icons. We're going to hit enter. We're going to cd into Dashy here, and we'll ls and make sure we've got our icons in public folder, and we do. Now first thing out of the gate, we're going to create a file called docker run text. So I'm going to do nano docker-run.txt. And what I put in here is my docker run command that I end up using, and that way if I make any modifications to it along the way, I've always got it in case I need to pull it back up for something, and then I'm backing up this Docker folder on a daily basis so that I've got the latest changes and everything like that. So I'm going to grab this Docker command that I've set up, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it in right here, and we'll kind of go through what this Docker command says. So docker run -d, which means run it as a daemon, run it in the background. I don't have to leave the terminal open to keep it running. And then this port that I'm setting up, 8295, is just an open port on my host. You can use any open port on your host that you want to use in order to get to the front end GUI of Dashy. In my case, 8295 is open and I want to use that. just never change the right side. This is what the container is expecting, is port 80, and unless you're doing development and you have a reason to change this port, you should never change this port whenever you're doing Docker stuff. Make sure it's always the left side that you're changing in order to map a different port on your host to the port on the container. Next, we've got the volume, and again, same thing. Left side we change, right side we really kind of leave alone for the most part. So here I'm creating a volume, and it's in my home directory in my Docker folder, which is where I just made this folder called Dashy and this folder called public. Inside of that, I'm going to create a conf.yml file in just a minute, and we'll paste some data in there and save it. And this is one of the things that I learned about Docker when I was doing this. I was just creating this path, but not actually having a file called conf.yml yet, and then mapping it to a place where there was supposed to be this file already. And what was happening was when Docker would try to run this, it would gripe at me and would say, hey, it looks like you're trying to mount a directory to a file. And I kept looking at these things going, no, it's got an extension. It's obviously a file. Why is it saying that? Well, it turns out that in Docker, if you tell it to create a volume mapping and you don't have part of the folder structure there yet, when you use -volume, Docker will create that folder structure and it will leave those folders empty. So basically you're mounting something that doesn't exist, and Docker says, okay, I'm going to create it, but I have no idea what should be in it, so I'm just going to leave it empty. Well, in this case, this didn't exist because I didn't create it. So it said, okay, I'm gonna put that, but it's going to be a folder and it's going to be empty. So then when it would look at this and say, here's a folder, and then it would look at this and say, well, that's a file, it would gripe at me, rightfully so, because I wasn't doing things correctly. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a little file inside of that public directory in a minute called conf.yml, and we're going to paste just a little bit of stuff in there to get us started, and then we can start building out our Dashy application. So next, I'm also going to mount this volume called Dashy icons that we created, and it's going to point at app public icon items or item icons, which is what Dashy has built in and what it's expecting. And then we're basically going to create that icons folder, and it's going to have some stuff in it as well. We're going to go get a whole bunch of icons for our homelab self-hosted stuff that's going to make it look even better. And you don't just have to use this for Dashy. You'll be able to use this for Homer, or you'll be able to use this for Heimdall or SUI or any of the other ones that you want to run as far as a dashboard goes. So it's a really great application GitHub library that they've got for all the icons, which is great. We're going to name this thing Dashy. We're going to restart it unless it's stopped. If you want to, you can change this to always. I just put unless stopped because when I stop it, I don't always want it to restart when the computer restarts. If you haven't stopped it, it will restart when you restart the host. But if you've stopped it for a reason, you may not want it to restart when the host restarts, and there could be reasons. So that's why I do it this way. And then finally, we're going to grab the image Lissy93/Dashy, and it's going to be the latest one. So we're going to save that with Control-O. And we're going to exit with Control-X, and we've got our docker run.txt file now. So we're getting there, and we're getting pretty well set. So we're going to go and make our conf.yml file. So we're going to cd public, and we're going to do an ls to see that there's nothing there. So we're going to do nano conf.yml. And in this one, I'll have this out there on the show notes so you guys can go grab this if you want to use mine. If not, there are samples out there that you can use out there on the Dashy site, so it's up to you where you get these from, but I'm happy to make this one available to you guys as a starting point. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it in, and we'll kind of go through what I have. So again, app config theme is going to be colorful. There's different themes that you can set, and you can do that through the UI. Layout is auto. Again, you can change this through the UI. Large, you can change this through the UI. Language is English for me. You can change this through the UI. Title, I'm going to call it homelab and welcome to your homelab. Again, you can change these things here. You can change it through the UI. Now, there's going to be a couple of nav links that, again, you can change and customize to be whatever you want, but I'm just going to leave for now the GitHub and the documentation links that they have set. And then we have sections, and this is really where you get your cards and all of your custom stuff that you want to see, and this is what we're going to just start off with, which is just a real simple getting started, nothing special, and we're going to get rid of this after we get the system up and running, and we'll create our own cards. So this is really everything we need for this configuration.yml to start, so we're going to save it with Control-O, and then we're going to hit Enter, and then exit with Control-X, and we're going to go back one step to Dashy, and we're going to go into the icons folder, and there's nothing in there. So we're going to clear that out just to make it easier for you guys to see. And now we're going to clone that library of icons. So we have this real simple git clone command here. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it in, and it's just this great library of icons. Again, this will be on the show notes so you guys can go grab it. And what this did was it created a folder called Dashboard Icons, and if you look inside of there, there is PNG, and then SVG, and then scripts. I'm going to use the PNG folder, but you're welcome to use the SVG folder. But if we cd into PNG and we do an ls, you can see there's all of these icons. I mean, just tons and tons of icons for all of these things you might be self-hosting. So I think it's a really super great library that makes it easy to go grab those things. So I'm going to clear that out. I'm going to cd back. There we go. We've got our docker run.txt again. Now I'm going to show you that library on GitHub real quick. This thing is great. So if you've never seen this library before, I mean, look at all these icons. Just tons and tons and tons. And I mean, just all of the icons you can imagine for things you might be running are probably here. And if they're not, I'm sure they would be happy to get a pull request from you where you've added some icons and made them available for people. So make sure that you're kind of checking out their legal notices and things like that. But I mean, this is really a great library. I like it a lot. And there's other libraries out there too, but this one I really seem to find a lot of the stuff that I have for sure. And I think it's super great. So there we go. We are ready to get out there and actually start up our dashboard, I believe. I don't think there's much else to be done. So we're going to go back into the terminal, and we're going to just do cat docker run.txt, and that's going to show us our command right here in the terminal so that we can just easily highlight and copy it. I'm going to paste it right there at the waiting terminal, and I'm going to hit enter. This is going to go out and pull down Dashy. It's going to export it. It's going to get it started for us. And we should see exactly what we see here. And we're just going to jump over. Now you can do your Docker logs inside of the terminal here, but I'm going to jump over into Portainer, and I'm going to refresh, and I'm going to go down here and find Dashy. There it is. And I'm going to go into the logs. And you'll see this. You need to wait for just a minute. Be patient. But if you start looking at the logs, you'll see this. And then it should add a bunch of stuff under it when it's actually ready. And it'll tell us that it's done. So just be patient. There we go. And right here you see done, that it's complete and it's waiting for changes. This means we're ready to jump over to the page. Now again, you can go to the IP address of your host with whatever port you set on the left side. In this case, I've got Portainer, so I'm just going to go over here and click, and it's going to open this up for me. And there we go. There's our starting page of Dashy. We have created a very quick, very awesome dashboard very fast. Now, this doesn't have all the stuff we want, but you can see it says homelab and welcome to your homelab. That's what we set. Here's those two buttons that I said you can change, so feel free to change those if you want to. And then over here we've got kind of our control set, and we've got our starter card. So when we get into editing, we'll get rid of the starter card, and we'll change the name of this, and we'll move it to something we want. We'll change everything to what we want. So as we go through the controls over here, first, you have your different themes. So I've got colorful just set as default. You can pick any theme you want. If you want material dark, there you go, and it looks a little different. You see it doesn't have the surrounding curve there. It just bumps things over, so pretty clean, pretty nice looking. I'm not wild about the colors, but overall, I mean, not bad. But there's just lots and lots of themes in here. If you pick this, you know, again, looks a little different, but things happen. But I like colorful. It's pretty easy to use. Fairly easy on the eyes, and there we go. It's got kind of a weird pink hue there whenever you highlight something, but you can definitely see it, so that's pretty cool. Now you also have a theme configurator. So when you click on this, you can see that you can get in here and kind of configure the theme to make it more like what you want or look more like what you want, so pretty great. Right here, remember we set auto and we set large, so there's our two settings, but you do have horizontal and vertical. You also have small and medium, so you can choose kind of what you want to see. So this isn't going to show much with horizontal and vertical right now because we don't have it really set up to do that. But if I click it, you'll see it changes a little bit, and it would set out the cards this way. And if I said horizontal, it would set them out horizontally, and it's only one column, so it would be really wide across the screen. But with auto, it kind of stacks it over here and, you know, tight, which is nice. Small, this is what small looks like, and again, you still get kind of the same thing. And then medium, and these all change a little bit based on what theme you're using, but you can kind of see what's going on. But I like the large. I think it's nice, and it shows me everything I want to see. Finally, we've got the editor section here, so we can go into the config wrench. And you can see right here, you can view and export your configuration, but you can edit your configuration right here through the UI. You can edit your custom CSS. You can enable Cloud Sync. You can change the app language, reload the application, or rebuild the application. You can reset your local settings, and you can look at the application information. And then you've got other tabs. Now, these two do the same thing, But then you've got cloud backup, and then you've also got your CSS areas. So if we go to the edit config here, you can see I can kind of expand these sections, and I can edit the information inside of these sections pretty easily. So you've got this app config, which is like auto enlarge, and that's this stuff over here. So you can change those right here if you want to. You've got kind of the page info, so you can change the title and you can change the subtitle. You can do this in that YAML file that we created before you ever started up, but you can also do it here if you decide you want to change it later. And then you've got this sections area, and this shows you kind of where our card is, and you can kind of see how it breaks out, and you can see where you can add things, and you just need to keep copying this if you're going to do this through the configuration editor. Now, you don't have to use the configuration editor to change this. So what I like is it's got this little edit tool here. So I'm going to put it in editor mode, and you see what happens. Now I've got this way to edit these cards, and I can edit the title of this, and let's just call this System Management. So I'm going to change this to System Management. The little icon that it uses is an FA, is the Font Awesome icon. So I'm going to change that to a server. And then default's fine, 1 and 1 are fine. There's nothing else I need to change. I'm going to change. I'm just going to click save, and you can see now it changed the icon and it says System Management. Right here, I'm going to right click on this guy. I could just edit it, but I'm just going to right click it. I'm going to say get rid of it. So if you right click, you get this context menu. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to add a new one. And I'm going to say that I want this to be Proxmox. Let's just start with Proxmox, you know. This is a virtual machine and container management system. Okay, there's my description. The icon I want to use, now this is going to go back to where we set up those icons. So this is going to be in icons / and in this case it's dashboard icons, and then it's in PNG, and then it's proxmox.png. Now this path is going to be the same for all those icons that we set up. If you want to use the PNGs, if you want to use SVGs, just change this to SVG, but the rest of that path would be the same. And then you just set this each time. So we're going to go to the server URL here. This is https:// and this is my Proxmox server. You would of course want to set up your own IP address for your Proxmox server. And then I want this to open in a new tab, but you see you have other options here as well. So you can say same tab, parent, top, modal, or workspace. Now the modal part doesn't work for everything. I think that uses an iframe, so if your application can't work in iframes, this may not work, so just be aware of that. But new tab is fine for what we're trying to do in my case. Now on Proxmox, I don't have the API stuff set up to get any kind of status checks, but we'll set this up on something else and try it here in just a little bit. But then we've got right here, we're going to click on save. And you see I've got my Proxmox icon, and it says Proxmox, and everything here looks exactly like I would want it to look. Let's add a couple more, and then we'll kind of look at the layout options that are over there. So let me add, let me look at my Homer. And again, new tab. I'm a new tab kind of person. Now, I can probably enable a status check. I'm going to make that true. I'm going to save that. And you'll see just behind the pencil, I've got this little ball that kind of shows. And now I'm going to save my config. So you need to save this to disk. It's very important. When you save your config, you need to come down here to the bottom, or else you're going to lose everything. So save. It's going to tell you, hey, I saved it. Now, when you refresh, I get some weirdness because of the caching again in the browser, but usually everything works fine. But you can see right here, it says server responded with 200 OK. That's awesome. You get the little hover text about what the description is, and you can see the icons show up. So that's awesome. So if I click on Proxmox, it's going to go over to my Proxmox server. I can log in. There we go. Everything worked just like you expect. So we're starting to build out our dashboard. So now if I say I want to see this horizontally, you see kind of what it looks like. It switches it from being vertical to horizontal. Now we can do vertical. Vertical. And you're going to see two columns here, and it'll start building out vertically. But you can go back to auto as well. And then you can create multiple sections like this, which is pretty awesome. So we can go back into edit mode. Let's create another section called automation. And we'll leave everything like that. We're just going to click on save. I guess gear is not the thing that I want. You can go look at your Font Awesome icons. You can also use MDI icons. It just depends on what you want to use, but you can find the icons that fit these things. We're going to call this Home Assistant. and it's home automation. I think this is true. It's amazing for home automation. The icon is going to be the same path that we already had. So again, if you're not sure, you can go back to your terminal and you can just kind of scroll up and you can grab that path. And then you can go back and you can paste it in there and then slash, and I bet it's home assistant.png. And then we're going to give it the URL for the server, and I'll open it in a new tab. And we can enable the status check. It didn't like that for that. I should have looked. I was in there. I should have looked at what it was called. Let's see. Let's go find H. Looks like H is at the bottom of the first column here. Oh no, oh yeah, home dash assistant. Home dash assistant. That's where I messed up. But that's okay. We can fix it. And we can fix it in the UI. So when we do edit, we just come down here and we put in a hyphen like that and we save it. And now we'll have to probably refresh to get it to take, but we will click save. And then I'm going to do refresh. And this is what I'm talking about. It kind of does some weird stuff when you refresh sometimes, so don't get frustrated. So if you open this developer tools, you can click on this gear, or you can click on the dots, and then you can click on settings. And you can come down here and check this box that says disable the caching. Just check that box and then refresh again. And even this creates some weirdness sometimes. There we go. Now we've got it. So it's updated. It didn't cache the results. And so it says it's not found, but that's okay. We click Home Assistant. It actually does open up. Awesome. So we're starting to build out our dashboard. You can see we've got different sections. You can collapse these things too, which makes it nice because you could have sections you do use, but you want to hide occasionally. I think it's amazing. Dashy is pretty awesome, and you can do some really cool stuff. And if you get out there and look at some of their examples and their showcases, you can see what other people have built out of it. And with the custom CSS capabilities, if you're a person that likes CSS and wants to change things in Fiddle, I think it's amazing. So I hope you guys will get a lot out of this. If you enjoyed this video about Dashy, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along the journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.